Did you all download it? Everybody downloaded the documents? Okay. Okay, so the document I sent, I have actually, there is a book, let me show you that.
Hi, Arvind here.
Yeah, hi, Aravind.
Hi, Deepak.
Okay, so there is a look, that's the one I sent you, mastering.
Actually, the signal is sound is breaking.
Okay, can you hear me now? Is it better?
Yes, it is excellent.
Okay. Okay, so I sent one of the document. This is this document, Mastering VMware vSphere 5. This is a book written by one of the complicated blogger and one of the EMCs and VMware's employees. His name is Scott Law. This book is actually an excellent book. It is around 944 pages. And guys, I strongly recommend you to start reading this book from top. And as I'm teaching, you will be getting more things. See, I cannot cover everything that is mentioned in book. I don't think anybody can do that. But there will be a lot of information in this book, which I might have not mentioned. But I'm touching all major points, but many other small things and granular things. If you want to catch, you have to read this book. And reading this book 2 or 3 times is definitely helpful, and that will help you with your interviews and all. And also one thing I want to tell you, today, as of today, I have 4 requirements for jobs. I don't know how many of you are already looking for job. You want any jobs? I can put you with some companies. The 2 companies, partnering companies I'm working with, they send me these requirements. I also got hold of a company which is a very good company, a consulting company based in New Jersey. Actually, the owner of the company is actually my old colleague in Merrill Lynch. He resigned from Merrill Lynch and he's running this company. He has around 125 plus consultants, and out of that 125, I think 100 of them are working for all large financial companies. They are direct vendors to many firms. So probably you may get some good rates also. So he sent me 2 requirements. So there is a lot of jobs. So, but at this point, I don't think you guys are ready. But at least by starting of October, first week or something, probably we should work on your resume. And at least I want to put a few of you guys interested guys. I wanted to put your resume there, and probably I can help you with some interviews and stuff like that. Anyway, that is the second part, but what I'm trying to tell you is market is so hot at this point. A lot of companies, the third quarter, many companies also have something called, the green light things that they do for the next year. They are looking for, taking a lot of resources at this point. So please be prepared, and if you guys are ready, there is a lot of openings coming up. Now, when it comes to the job, I know people have problems with relocations and all. That is a key thing. So let me know your choices, then I can possibly help you with. Actually, today one of my student, my earlier student, he got a job. Last week, another guy got a job. So those are 2 good things, So there was a guy actually, Olu. He actually sent an email. Let me see. I can show you that email. Olu. Where is that email from Olu's? Yeah, I think probably on my Gmail. But that's another guy got a job. So anyway, we'll talk about it. So let me come back here. So this is a book, guys. You please start reading this book. This is very very interesting book. This is not a course material. This is actually a full-fledged book. 944 pages. Print it out chapter by chapter or something, and keep reading this book. This contains everything. Okay. You may not, I don't think you need to read everything, but at least the first few chapters in Introduction to vSphere, planning and installing ESXi, those two chapters you can read. When you talk about one chapter, that chapter will have many subdivisions and things like. So start reading, and that's one important thing. The second document I sent is actually, I don't have for ESX5 course material. As I said, I'm looking for it. I may get it, but as you know, ESX5 and 4 and all, we're going to do everything, all the lab, all the practices, everything using the latest version, ESX 5.1. But nothing has changed. Certain new features, for example, ESXi 5 support only up to 34 processors. ESXi 5.1 supports 64 processors. Those are the changes that are on 5.1 and 5 and things like that, and then some additional features. So in the lab and in the class, all through the class, we will be working completely on ESX 5 or 5.1. I'm planning to install 5.1, as I said, but nothing is changed. So 4.1 is the book I have. This is the VMware's official course material. You don't see anything. Believe me, there is nothing different in what you learn here and what you learn on the other one. So, creating switches, managing switches, storage properties, setting up storage, configuring clusters, everything is exactly the same here. A few places here and there, some changes are there, which I will mention. So this book is some like I would it as a studies. So start reading these. These are from the official curriculum, and probably these are in small bullets, small modules. So basically, I strongly recommend you to start following these books. There are blogs which I will tell you. One of the top blogger is, as I said, he's actually a friend of mine also. He's one of VMware's, I met him actually in San Francisco. We had a couple of drinks, and also I made my relationship with him. His name is Duncan. He has a big blogger. He's one of the best blogger, Yellow Dash Bricks. That is the site, Yellow Bricks. It will come up. It is a very popular VMware blog. So this is one of the best blogger. You can see that he has his own book. This book, vSphere Clustering Deep Dive. But most of the thing that is mentioned in this is here. You can see that the HA and the DRS deep dive. If you get into HA, we will learn about these things. I don't think you need to read about it now. I also have a couple of comments here. You can see if you go down, all the way down to this blocks, you can see my comments there. Place I have anything, but I have blogs and whatever is possible. I think you can see somewhere. This guy is Duncan Epping. He's actually a VCDX, a design architect for VMware. What is that? Right. I know. Okay, I understand. Okay, let me stop it. I'm doing it from my main box. That's a problem. Okay, can you guys hear me now? Is it better now, Raiden? Okay. Okay, so yellowbricks.com is one of the best blog sites. Yellowbricks, as I said. So this is the thing. This book is really good, and I have some comments. I'm not going to spend time on it. That's one good blogger. The another guy is Chad. I think it's called as Virtual Geek or something. Yeah, this is the one, Virtual Geek. This is another good one. This is from an EMC's VP kind of a person, Chad. This is also a good blog. This is that guy. This is actually Chad. I know him also. So he's actually a senior VP in thing. But his blogs, he do a lot of crap also. Scott Lowe, the book I sent you. That guy is a great blogger. Probably, I would say, if you're really looking for some technical stuff deep inside VMware, you should definitely look at Scott Lowe's blog. This is the one, virtualization. This is actually run by that guy, Scott. So this is also, he has a lot of stuff here in this. So this is the guy who wrote that book. So you can actually look at him. So he is also having a lot of stuff. So I will send you some links. There are some other sites too, if you want to look at it. Okay. So what I was talking is about the document. So this is that book document I sent you, the 4.1 course material. This is definitely, you should look at these two. This is what you should be following. I also send you another document which is a memory management. If you guys are interested, you can read that. It's not that important. But there is a document I sent that contains ESX study guide. That is actually a ESX 3.5 course material, this book. ESX 3.5 onwards, things got changed a lot, but the storage portion in this guide is one of the best I have seen. So whenever I teach storage, I always point back to this particular document to teach it in a much more better way. So in this one, I have a feeling that the pictures and all that are given in this particular module is actually the best I have ever seen. So I typically follow this document for the storage class. So you don't need to read that, but only read it when I teach that topic. So that's it. So start reading the books, and then we will see. And I know a few of you guys asked for a Windows class. As I said, I have some Windows 2008 training books, all of them, including these are the official Active Directory and all the books. So if you are really interested, ask me. I will send it to you. Okay. If anybody needs it, all the Windows Server books I have, I can give it to you. Which I didn't send it, but if anybody is interested, let me know. Okay. Do we have everybody on class? One, Sujan, Sri, Satya, Small, Raiden, Fanny, Dean, I think everybody is there. Okay, guys. So let's move forward. So what I'm going to do today is we're going to do the installation. I know you all connected. I saw some mails from Sri and Arvind. Please follow that practice. If you are working on a server, kindly send an email out, and when you finish, you try to send another mail that you're out. Unable to connect. I don't know, Satya, what's your problem is. We can look into that. Okay. I don't know what's your problem. Unable to connect. What is the problem? Can you speak, please?
Yes, I connected through remote desktop. After that, I clicked that one. I tried to open that one again. I typed administrator and password, but I could not connect.
So did you try another server?
Yes, 16, 17, 18, 19. I tried 4 servers, but I could not.
What was the problem?
I think servers are not running, not started. It is showing like that. I surprised actually. Just 45 minutes or 1 hour before.
See, so no, I don't think that's correct. So let's take a look at it quickly. I know I don't want people to be lost. So I'm going to share your screen. Please log in now. Let us see what is happening. Let everybody see what you're doing. Okay, go ahead. So click on OK and show your screen. Okay, we can see your screen. That's fine. Okay, I think I can give you that 68 dot. Can anybody tell me, guys? I think what was that? I can give you that. It is actually 68.82.128.181:7733. Okay, log in with your username and password. Okay. You can use Firefox or anything you want.
Connect like this.
I never, hold on a second, Satya. Satya, hold on a second. I never taught you to use this tool itself. You don't even, nobody know what this tool is, right? Who told you to use this? Did I ever show this tool in the class? We were talking about connecting to the ILO of a server, to the back of the server. To do that, you have to go through your Internet Explorer or Firefox. So if you have a problem, you should basically send an email, and I think that's why I was sending everybody's email address and mail information is there. So please call one of the guys. Gene is currently actually, his wife is working, and he's at home. Sujan is kind of free, so you can call Gene or call Sujan, or talk to people who are at home and talk to them. That's fine. Say add. So you start. I would recommend to start IE first. This is all technical. You can fix that. This is not the time. So close that and go to IE, please. Or add exception. Yeah. Say. Okay, that's the problem with it has all security. Okay, you can do that. That's fine. Okay, it's going to pop up again. Okay. Here is where did you use this?
No, I will not connect up to here. Just I stopped there itself. Okay, I will try today. I will try.
Did you try to connect? Did you try this option?
Okay.
Satya, did you try this?
No.
Okay, so don't worry about it. I don't want to waste time here. So I'm taking the control back. You can try it out. Okay. But I'm saying that was your problem. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, yes, okay. Thank you.
Okay, so guys, what we're going to do here today is, if possible, definitely I wanted to do an ESX server installation and ESXi server installation. Installation of an ESX hypervisor, ESXi is very simple, straightforward. There is nothing much rocket science there. And typically companies and everybody uses the default procedure. There are some customization you can do, but it is not recommended. I've seen that, and there are blogs. You can see that people who try to customize the ESX installation end up in issues at a later point. There are many Linux experts and all try to do their own way of partitioning and all that created problems. So the best and recommended thing is do not do any customization. Do the normal step. In my office, I'm telling you, hundreds and hundreds of ESX servers, we use the normal procedure, and we haven't seen any problems. What I'm going to do is when you connect to your box, you will have a D drive. In D drive, there will be a software folder. Under the software folder, you will see all your required ISO files. Let me show you that. So when you connect to your lab, this is that lab server. In the lab server, you will have a D drive. In the D drive, you can see a software folder, and under the software folder, all the required ISO files are here. Right now, we are focusing on ESX 4.1. This is the ESX 4.1 ISO file. This is an ISO file is nothing but a bootable CD-ROM file. You know that in a virtualized environment, we don't use any CDs. I have CDs. I can put the CD. It will be much faster. So there is definitely, and also you have to understand, I'm doing this from a wireless, and all my servers are in the basement. So when I do from here, definitely it's going to take some time. It's going to be a little slow process, but if I had put I would have put a CD, it would have been much more faster. But I wanted to show you how to attach ISO file and how to build it using an ILO, and that is what I'm going to do. So this is the ESX4 ISO file, and as I said, if anybody wants to install ESXi 5, it is there also. But I'm not going to do that here. We're going to try ESX 5.1. Believe me, I have never tried this. This is the first class I'm going to try. So we're going to be for installing ESXi 5. See, VMware installer, that is the hypervisor, VMware. Whereas there is another thing called vCenter 5.1. You can see that VMware VM setup all. This is not the hypervisor. This is the vCenter, and all other update manager, VMware converter, and all those things are inside here. This is actually, we have to extract it and do that. So don't do this now. We will be looking into this later. For you, for next 2 days or 3 days for your installation and practice, use ESX 4.1 and 5.1 or 5.0. That is here. Now, once you build an ESX server and we get on to the next stage of the class where we're going to create virtual machines and install operating systems. All major operating systems are here. CentOS is here, Linux, Ubuntu is there, Windows 7 is there, 2008 R2, 2003, 2008 normal x86. All major operating systems are here. I mean, you can have more, but I have at least provided some of the stuff here. Okay? So that is how you will be doing. So I'm not going to do this from this box, but I'm going to show you this installation from my class server here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pick one server. Now again, some of my servers have multiple hard drives. Some of the servers have only 2 drives. Some have 4. Some have 6 drives. Now, yesterday I was showing you different RAID options. It is your choice whether you want to go and create RAID and all, but always if you are installing, I would strongly recommend go to the RAID, start the server, boot the server, press F8, get onto the RAID configuration, delete the RAID. See, go ahead and delete it. Nothing will going to happen. A lot of people have a fear factor. Okay, what happens if I do this? Do I spoil Deepu's server? Nothing will happen to my server, guys. Go ahead and delete that RAID and try to create it. Don't make any changes in ILO or anything, but other than that, you go to the RAID controller by pressing F8, delete whatever you want, delete it. Delete and reconfigure the RAID so that you get comfortable with these techniques, and then you install. If you tried, let's say, Aravind installed on server 16. Now, after some time, Fanny connected to 16. And if you try to install it, it will install it on top of what Aravind has installed. That is not the thing you want to do. First thing, you go to install it, make sure that you boot the server, you go to the BIOS, you go to the disk array controller properties and delete that whatever Aravind has created. That means it will wipe off everything, recreate new RAID, and then you install it. Okay? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to one of my server here, let us go to this 10.10.19. I'm just picking up this server, okay? Or let's go to 10. Okay, 19 is enough. Going to this server. I'm going to log in. So I'm going to just show the installation. Today, guys, it's much more than talking. It's more a practical thing. So we'll listen to or look at what I'm doing. This server is currently up and running. I can see that from here. So I don't know, is there any operating system or anything in it that is there. One more thing, yesterday I didn't talk about it. In an ILO, there is an option called virtual media. So you can actually go to this virtual media and click on the virtual media applet. This is actually a Java plugin. It comes up. You can see that it is loading Java. And this is the way you attach an ISO file to your server. So this is actually the virtual media connection option. Here you can attach the ISO file to your server. Well, attaching an ISO file to a server means it is as if you are putting a CD or a DVD onto your server's drive. This is what I'm going to do. You want to put a floppy drive, you can do that. So first thing, the first option, the first box is for floppy drive. So we don't have to do anything there. What we need to look here is the CD-ROM drive. If I'm putting a CD on my computer here, I can do that and connect to it. You don't have that choice. Always select this local image file, browse, and go to our D: folder and pick your VMware ISO file. This is my thing. So I'm going to select ESX 4.1 update ISO file. And I'm going to click OK, and I have to say connect. Now that green light is on, that means I have inserted the ESX server 4.1 CD into that server. Don't close this. Just keep this like this, or you can keep it minimized. Now go to the server's remote console. Open this, keep it here, and see whether you can see. So it will be already in the BIOS or something like, because nobody installed any operating system. See, it is somebody tried. So you see that it is already coming from that booting option. So we don't want to do that. Let me do this again, guys. So it is coming up because I'm going to disconnect it here. What I wanted to do first is I'm going to the power management. I'm doing it fresh. I don't know what I saw some ESX stuff. I don't know whether it is Arvind's installation or somebody. I'm going to power off this server now. First, I need to power off this server. This server is, see, it is coming. So I'm going to reboot. No, you can reboot or you can do certain things. Let me show you here what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go, this is what I'm trying to tell you is the easiest way. There are many ways to get rid of it. People who know it, they know how to work on it. Best option is go to the power management and press on this press and hold button. How do you stop your laptop? You have to keep pressing that button for some time, right? It's not just a press. So press and hold will power off that server. You can see that the server went off. You can see that this light will go off now. Okay, the server is off. Nothing is there now. And you can see that the server is now no video, nothing. Now, what you do is go to the virtual media. Now the server is off. You go to the virtual media, go to the applet, go to this. Do this, browse that CD file, attach it, connect it, come back to the power button. Momentary press. Now I'm going to start the server. Once you press that, you can see that the server is booting now. Now you have the CD. Make sure that your CD drive is attached. Okay, it is there. That green light is there. Go to the server screen. You can see that the server is going to start. It will come up. It takes a little time. Be patient because the server, that's how the servers are. So it takes some time. So it is coming up now. I'm not going to if I let it go, it is going to boot from the CD drive. But I don't know what type of RAID Arvind has created. I don't know what is there in the hard disk. So I'm going to do a fresh installation. So my first goal is to get into the array controller and configure the RAID. That is the first thing I'm going to do here. Okay. So wait for that and make sure that your mouse is clicked inside so that your active cursor is always inside it. Otherwise, if you press F8, you will go somewhere else. So be ready to press F8. Don't press F8 for the first option. That is for the ILO. So see integrated lights out, press F8. Don't do that. Wait for the array configuration. See the smart array is coming up. Here it will give you an option to press F8. See press F8. I pressed F8. Now I come to the logical volume. If you want, you can go to view logical drive. You can see that, okay, there is somebody created a drive. I'm not worried about that. I'm going to delete whatever that stuff is here. I'm going to delete. Press F8 to delete. So you press the F8 button and then press F3 to confirm. Just read this. Everything is very clearly mentioned there. I'm doing it a little fast, I know, but press F3 and it is deleting that logical volume. You're done. Now you come here to the view logical drive. You don't see anything because there is no logical volume. Now you're going to create a new logical volume. So you press on the create logical volume. You can see that there are 2 drives in this particular server. So as you said, by default it's to the RAID 1. Yes, we wanted RAID 1. That is where we're going to install our ESX server. So you need redundancy. Even if one disk fails, you still want the OS to work. So I'm going to press enter. Press F8 to confirm the selection, and it is creating that new RAID volume for me. I'm done. If you click on create logical drive again, you don't see anything because there were 2 drives and you already created. Go to view logical drive. You can see that the logical drive is there. So you are done with your first part. Make sure that again, you make sure that your CD is still connected. At this point, you are done with the RAID configuration. Press the escape button. Press one more escape and it is continue to boot. The server will reboot at this point. It is not going to continue. It will reboot at that point and it is going to boot from this particular ISO file. You can see that it is actually loading the ESX 4.1 thing. If you leave it like this, in 20 seconds or 30 seconds, it's going to boot from that CD. ESX can be installed in different other ways. I'm not going to teach that. I'm not going to talk. You can do a scripted installation using some KS files, ks.cfg. It's called as the automated build. You can also do it in an ESXi text mode. Nobody uses that. The normal way of installing is in the graphical mode, and that is what we're going to do. So if you press enter, it will start, or else it is going to boot. So what it's doing now is it is starting the ESX server installation. Remember guys, we are installing ESX server here, ESX 4.1, not ESXi, the one with the service console. That is what we're installing here. So what exactly happening right now is the installation is actually, or the boot process is actually copying all the contents from that CD into the memory. It is loading all that contents into the memory of this server, and then it will execute it from there. That is how the process is. So right now it's actually extracting all the files from that ISO file. If you disconnect at this point, you're done. You have to do the whole stuff again. So make sure that this light is there and the connection is there. Where your ISO file is located. My ISO file is located on the CD drive of my computer. The ISO file is here, right on the C software. That is what you guys are also going to do. It is on the C drive. The file is on the C drive. So when you do it, whichever computer you are doing this installation, that computer should have it. Or you can map it to a drive. But you are connecting to your lab server. In that lab server, the D drive has all these installation files. So map it to that folder. Okay? You understand, Sujan? Let it extract. Let me show you that. So this is your lab server. Right? When in the lab server, you see there is a D software folder in the ESX ISO file. Okay. What happened here? Did anybody extracted this file here now, guys? There was an ISO file. What happened? Who extracted it? You should not be extracting that file, guys. Who did that?
Oh, I did that. I thought
you don't need to
ISO.
extract. We don't. I mean, you can extract it. There is no use for that file to be extracted. This is an ISO file. We need an ISO file to be installed.
Okay.
So there is no need to extract that. Okay, that's fine. We just need that ISO file. That's it. We're not extracting it. You know, why do you need it? You're going to build it using that file, right? Okay, so that's the thing. So you can do it that way. Okay. All right. So that's it, Sujan. So that's clear, right? So let's go wait and watch what's happening here. Okay. So that extraction is completed, and now it is actually loading the ESX installation. So one thing you need to understand, ESX or VMware actually uses the default Linux bootloader. You know, every operating system, if you want to install, there has to be a bootloader. For example, Windows servers, over the years, it was using MS-DOS as the bootloader. Today, now they have some Pixie boot and all. Again, that's a bootloader. Linux has Lilo boot. So VMware actually uses the Lilo boot, the Linux native bootloader. It's not that means Linux, it's a bootloader. So VMware uses that to install the ESX server. Okay. What is happening here? This is not good actually. There is some problem here. Okay, it is actually starting actually. Okay. It's going to be a little slow because, you know, I'm mapping it through my ILO file. So ISO file, you know, through the ILO, it's going to be a little slow. Let's just give it a few minutes. Okay, let's see what happens. Looks like there is a problem. I think that installation file may be corrupted. I don't know. Normally, it should not do this. Normally, ESX server installation can be done in like 15 to 20 minutes, 15 minutes, that's it. So I think there is a problem here, guys. So I don't know what happened here. So let me do one thing. I have a feeling that that ISO file may be corrupted. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to disconnect it here. And I'm going to close this. I'm going to log out from this server here. I'm going to go to your lab server, which you guys do. Let us try it from here. I have a feeling that that was corrupted probably. Okay, so let me go to I'm going to go to 10.10.19. Sujan, here is the thing. Look at it. This is exactly what you're going to do in your lab. So you connect your ESX server using the ILO. Log in with your password. Go to the virtual media. Go to the applet. I'm on your lab server. Okay. Go to the local image file, go to browse to the D colon, software, ESX 4.1, pick that file, say OK. Connect. Now you have that thing connected. Go to the remote console. Start the remote console. And this server is still staying at that, so I'm going to do a Control Alt Delete. It will restart the server. And do a Control Delete. It will actually reboot that server. Let's see what happens. If it does not reboot, what you will do?
Cold boot.
Do a cold boot.
Power
So
off.
go to the power machine. You can do a cold boot, or you can actually power it off and power on. It is still on, so I'm going to wait for it. And I'm going to power on again. And make sure that my CD is still connected. So I don't need to do anything because I have done my RAID configuration. So I'm going to let that server to come up now. Let's see what happens.
So there were one question.
Yeah.
So like you're installing via your network, like connecting browsing to the ISO file to the drive, right? Virtual drive, right?
Right?
Right. And if we are like when you are you did before, like what do you call it? Reconfigure your RAID and you formatted, the drive. There is no virtual these things, the files on it, right? It's empty. Okay.
Okay.
In that case, how do you connect to this in this process, like the browsing the ISO files and connect to this things where it is stored in this things like the ISO files?
It's on your server. You saw that, right? I connected to this ISO file on that server. Your server, you are doing it from the lab. You are not doing from your desktop.
No, I know that. So my question is, you just now you configure the RAID, right? You formatted the RAID your hard drive.
Correct.
And then how do you connect? Because you cannot connect to the, the file, like any files via your this things. What do you call it? EEPROM mode, right?
I am not connecting to the server. I am connecting through the console. I am actually not connected. There is nothing on the server's hard drive. I'm going to install something.
Okay.
So I formatted the hard drive. I formatted the hard drive, and I'm going to put the CD and I'm going to install it. So instead of putting a CD, I'm using the ILO to attach it to a virtual device. So virtual ISO file. That is what I'm doing.
Yeah, I got it now. So that network connections, take the file through the other these things, other hard drive. The other server.
Correct. I'm taking that file, or the CD is applied through this virtual media. Yes, through this Java applet.
Yeah,
so this is actually simulating. It is as if like I have put a CD on the server.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing on the hard disk at this point. What it is doing now is it is copying the contents of this CD to the memory. That is what it is doing now.
Yeah, that's what I'm confused. So now I'm clear.
I think what we had seen the problem is probably that ISO file was corrupted. I hope this will be okay. So let's see.
Deepu, quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Where is the ILO software located for this particular server? So every particular server will
every server, the ILO is actually a card on the back of your server. It is actually a small chip on the back of the server. This ILO software, whatever you are seeing, all that program, the web interface, everything is a small program which is on the back of your server, sitting inside a small memory chip.
Okay, so when you are erasing the RAIDs, this chip will not be touched, right?
No, RAID is another thing. RAID is actually that's inside that's a BIOS and other thing. Not only BIOS, there is actually another chip for configuring the RAID controller information is on another chip. It's BIOS. This is a totally different thing. ILO is a totally thing outside of all that. It's a small chip on the back of your server. Okay, I think it is showing the same thing. I think let us give it a little time. Probably, I think it's through the ILO, it's taking a little time. So I think I will give some time for this to load. Okay, probably we'll wait. I think I was rushing there. It's because it's normally it should be very fast. I think it is doing the correct thing only. It is trying to load all the files, but since it is through the ILO, it is quite slow. But that's it. Let us wait for some time. Okay, go ahead. If you have questions, we can discuss that. Fanny, you understand your question answer, right? What I'm saying, right?
Hello. Close the door.
Yeah, I was just making sure that it wasn't on the RAID, that's all.
No. The ILO software is totally a separate EPROM on the back of the server.
Yep, got it.
I mean, it's back of the server means it's a small memory chip on the motherboard, on the back, somewhere in the motherboard.
Yeah, I worked on a server before, and it had a separate port for the ILO, and it was connected to a separate.
Correct. ILO has a separate port, and that is where I have a network card connected to it. Okay, let me show you that. Okay, let this load. I think it is taking its time. That's all. So I will wait for some time. So let us say this is the back side of your server. Okay, every HP server's back side, it will be probably like this. There will be small two options to put the power supplies. There will be slots. It's not the same always. It will be all different. There will be slots where you can put PCI cards. There will be a network card here, a network port. This is typically the ILO. And then there will be two network cards here. These are your actual network cards, and this network card is actually for your ILO only. There will be ILO written here, and this will be written as NIC1 and NIC2. Okay, so these are your onboard network cards. This is your ILO network card. So you take a connection. I always have a connection from this one going to my switch here. I have a Cisco switch here, which is connected to here. So right now, Deepu is sitting on this laptop or desktop. I am accessing this through here, the ILO. And the ILO works using the battery power. So you don't need to have the server to be powered on or anything. I can power on, or when I type 10.10.10.19, I get that web page because that EPROM I can access it through here. And I have given the IP, I have configured this network card with that IP address 10.10.10.90. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so guys, there is some problem. I have never seen a case where it is taking so long to install. Is it a problem with this server? I have a feeling that it could be a problem of the server. So let this happen here. I wanted to make sure that I have a feeling that it is something is wrong there. We may have to look at it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect to another server, which is let's say 10.10.10.70. Let's see that. And I'm going to apply the same thing here on this server. Let's see what happens here. It should work. I am very positive about that. So this server is on. So I'm going to go to the service console. Okay, this server is currently powered off. So I'm going to the virtual power button. And there is also virtual media. This is an older version of ILO. So it is little different from what you see. So, both servers don't think that everything looks like this is an older version ILO 1.0. That's why. So go to virtual media, same thing. I'm going to attach the same CD. I don't think it is CD Pro. I've never seen that problem. Let's see. Otherwise, I have a CD. I will go downstairs and put the CD. Because it's been a while I used ESX4 because last 3 batches we were using ESXi 5. But last class also I installed ESX4. So let's see.
Hey, Deepu.
Yeah, say go ahead.
Yeah, actually on the same server I was working on, I created already a RAID.
Okay, you created the RAID, that's it, right?
Yeah, I just created the RAID with only 2 disks. There were like 6 disks in it. So I just took only 72 gig each.
Okay, you took the first 2?
First 2, yeah.
Okay, that's good. So I think I will let it. Okay. There is a problem here. It's all, you have to be patient. This is all my, this is all Java problems and all. So let it come up, guys. Wait a minute. What's happening now? Java problem.
Hey, Deepu, can you connect from the same box that you gave us to RDP?
Yeah, I know it will work there because the Java is there, right?
Right.
Okay, I can try that, but let us go back. Okay, here there is definitely a problem. Okay, guys. So I don't know. Let's see. I think we can fix that. Let me go to this server, the same server what Sri is saying. So I'm going to go to 10.10.17. Okay, it's working fine here. See, it's a Java problem, so so this is why it is. So I'm going to attach that CD file here, ESX 4.1. This is another server, totally different server. I'm just trying to rule out that the server is not causing the problem. Now I'm going to the power button, and I'm going to power on that server. I'm not going to do a RAID here because Sri said he already created the RAID, so we don't need to worry about it. So I'm going to just let ISO file to boot from that CD. So let us see what happens here. In this one, unfortunately, remember this is an old server. You will only see that small screen. That's how it is. You won't see that. So it is booting. You can all see it clearly, right? It is coming up, right? So I'm not going to go to the RAID here. If I wanted to, I can actually press F8, but Sri already said he has created a RAID 1 partition. So I'm not going to go there. I wanted to see whether it can boot and come up. If I want to go, I should press F8 when it comes. Now, give me an option, press F8 to go to array controller. Okay, I'm pressing enter to start the extraction. So let it extract. In the meantime, I wanted to take a look at what's happening. So this server is not working. I'm sure this is not working. So what I'm going to do here is, guys, I'm going to disconnect this CD and I'm going to put ESXi 5 here and see is that a server problem or not. So I'm going to ESX 5.1. I'm attaching that ESX 5.1 CD here, connecting that, and I'm going to restart that server one more time. I'm doing two things here. Don't get confused here, okay? I'm doing, this is on the old server. I'm trying to troubleshoot that problem. I'm going to restart that server, and I'm going to install, basically I'm going to try, what I'm trying here is I'm trying to install ESXi 5 here to see that that's not the problem. Okay, this is the card for 19. You can see that on the top here. And our other server is going fine. This is the CD drive for 17. And that is still extracting. So I have the 17 going on here, and this is our first server where I'm installing. So look at here, guys. On my left hand side is I'm trying to install ESXi 5, and the right hand side I'm trying to do an installation of ESX 4.1. Let's say if there is a problem, then I will probably download another ISO file. Maybe the file is corrupted. I don't think the server is having any problem. Probably these files may be corrupted. I'm not sure. If that's the case, we'll download another thing, or I will put a CD and show you. I have a CD, working CD there down, so I'll put that CD. If I put the CD, then I don't need to do any ILO. I just need to start the server. It will boot from that CD. Correct? So left hand side, you watch carefully. It is going to boot from that ESXi 5 CD. See, this is how the ESXi 5, 2 seconds, it's going to boot from that ESXi installation. ESXi installation is very, very small, very thin. You saw that, there is no service console. It is actually starting, loading all the required files to the memory now. That is what it takes some time. It has to copy all that files to the memory. So far, I don't see any problem. It is doing what it is supposed to do. So let this happen so we can do both the installation at the same time. It is doing so. This yellow mark has to come all the way up, and then it starts the boot process. ESXi installation, you may see that rich graphical interface at all there. VMware could have definitely put some nice graphical interface like what you see on the right hand side with ESX5 and all, some nice funny stuff, but they purposefully didn't do that because they wanted to keep the boot files or the installation file to the minimum so that they can deploy it using they can deploy it using a small USB stick. So look at the right hand side. Guys, there is definitely a problem. It is showing this. No, here it is loading now. See? So that's the server. So this is the thing. So let us don't forget about this for now. You can see that the ESX is loading now. It will come up. That's the screen that's on. So this is how the ESX server installation starts. So I think there is some problem with that server mostly. I have to look at that. But we are successfully, the ESXi installation is going on here. You see that? This is the same server we tried. I don't know why, but anyway, let us not focus on that now. Let us look at here. The CD is connected, and I am inside here. So now, few things. These are all things you all need to know. I know it's a pain, but please, when you install it, you have to try, and you are doing it remotely. I'm also doing it remotely because I'm RDP to this machine and try. When you connect to the ESX, once it loads, you can see that there is a black mouse pointer. This mouse pointer is, it's very tricky. It does not work like the way you wanted it. So you have to be very patient to move this mouse pointer. Sometimes you see that there is another thing. So I'm going to click next. So this is the ESX installer. It loaded. Everything is loaded to the memory, and now you are seeing the installation. So this is the steps. Remember I said ESXi does not have this graphical interface. ESXi installation is completely different, and we see that it is loading. So this is the ESX installation. Let us focus and do this first. Okay. So I'm going to click next. Move your mouse very slowly, guys, and always focus on the black mouse. When sometimes you see two mouse pointers, but make sure that your mouse pointer is your black mouse pointer, and move it very slowly, because it's not easy to get control over this. If this doesn't work, or if you think that your mouse pointer is very difficult to move, use your keyboard tabs like this and use the keyboard to do the thing, whatever you want to move. US English, and press next. And here is the first options coming. Do you want to install any custom drivers? You know that we talked about the drivers. You know, VMware kernel requires drivers to talk to the hardware. Here it is asking, do you want to install any custom drivers? I know that this server, what I'm trying to install, which is a DL385G1, I know that server is in the compatibility list for VMware. All my servers actually in the compatibility list. So I don't need to install any custom drivers. If I bought a new HBA or a new network card, and then if I want to install, then I should use that option. So I'm not going to use that, so I can click no, and then I can click next. If I want, you have to select yes and pick that driver from your floppy drive. So it's going to say that the installation wizard will load any drivers. So it's now going to load all the drivers that are required for the system. It is going to load. Where is it? It's already, everything is in that ISO file. So I'm going to say, okay, you can see that it is going to load the required driver. So you can see that, you look at that reading, if you click, you can see that it is loading the networking drivers, storage drivers. Again, it is not installing, it is loading everything to the memory. Okay, it is extracted that file, and now it is actually loading all the required files. So it is just loading the really required drivers for the installation based on the hardware I'm doing. Let's wait for that to complete. And it is complete. Now click next. Serial number. You know that ESX server licensing are based on serial numbers. I will talk about licensing at a later point. But understand one thing. You can always install ESX server without a license, and it will work with full functionality. Full functionality means every functionality will be available, and it can be worked for 60 days. After 60 days, you have to apply the license. So you have time for 60 days to do the installation. And in my class, I don't use any licenses, and my classes never go for 60 days. So if we install some servers through the end of the class, we will get all the features. But believe me, in real life, you have to have your license. But again, it is always a common practice among VMware administrators that they don't provide a license at the time of installation of a server. The license normally come from the vCenter server, which we will learn later. There is a centralized repository for storing the licenses, which is normally on the vCenter server. So your ESX server will get a license when you add your server to the vCenter. That all we will learn later. So all you need to do is, here you don't need to do that. You can select the second option, enter a serial number later, and click next. So here it is coming. It is showing the network card, which network card you want to select. If you click on this server, you can see that I can see that there are actually 3 network cards in this particular server. So whichever you want, you can use that. This is actually, I wanted to take a moment here to make you understand this concept, okay? So it is asking me, okay, Deepu, which server want to do? So what is basically happening is this. Let me explain that in a minute with a picture here. So we know that, this is your physical hardware, and this is your hypervisor, the VM kernel on top of it. And on the VM kernel, you have the service console, correct? So right now we're going to install the ESXi server. So it's basically what it is asking. So the service console is what? It's a VM, correct? So basically what it is doing is it is going to ask for a network card to manage this service console. So basically it is picking one of the network card, and this VM, this mother VM has a network card, which is a virtual network card. This virtual network card will be talking to a virtual switch, which will be talking to a physical network card. That's right, yesterday I was showing you that picture, correct? So basically once you have this configured, you are connecting to this through here. The connection will go like this through the thing, okay? So don't get confused here, and it will be very simple to understand once I get the GUI, but I'm just trying to say, tell you that what I'm doing right now here is I'm configuring one of the network card for the ESXi server to start with. After installation, we will be doing a total reconfiguration. But by default, you select the first network card and proceed. There is an option called VLAN ID. I will explain what is VLAN ID and all when we get into networking. I don't want to confuse you guys at this point. So I'm selecting the first network card to configure my network. Okay, that's all you need to do. So select that network card and click next. You can use your server with a DHCP. I have DHCP in my environment, but I don't want to use DHCP, and you should never use DHCP on any servers. You know, it is best practice to have static IP address for your servers. Now, what is the IP address you're going to give? So this is very important. Okay, so we have to give an IP address, subnet mask, gateway, DNS server, and all. So in my environment, I told you my networks are all 10.10.10.x subnet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to give an IP address, and typically I will tell you, this is very important, guys. I will make a note of that here. Please take a note here. When you are configuring ESXi servers, so my network or lab, our lab, you know, our lab, the IPs are if you are configuring ESXi servers, use the IP address 10.10.10.90 to 10.10.10.99. I have only 8 servers, so use one of these IPs for your ESXi servers. Subnet mask always is 255.255.255.0, and my gateway is 255. Sorry, gateway is 10.10.10.1. Okay, this is the mask, and this is the gateway. Anytime you are building a VM or building an ESXi server, this is the information. If you are building ESXi servers, give IP addresses from here. I will show you how to give that IP address. DNS server. I have only one DNS server, and the DNS server is 10.10.10.2. That is my DNS server. This information you need. Now, I told you to start from 90. So, do you know is 90 is used? So, make sure you open a command prompt and do a ping 10.10.10.90 and see whether it is pinging. If it is pinging, that means somebody else is using somewhere. So, don't try to give duplicate IP. Now, I know that 10.10.90 is absolutely not used here. So, I'm going to decide I'm going to give 10.10.10.90 to my server. See, you can give another IP address, but I'm saying, you know, this is how you should be trying, because there are multiple people using this lab. Okay. All right. So the mouse is, see, I'm struggling with the mouse here, and that is normal. 10.10.10.90 is my IP address. Use the keyboard, which is much more easier. 255.255.255.0 is a subnet mask. 10.10.10.1 is my gateway, 10.10.10.2 is my DNS server. There is no secondary DNS server for me, and now comes to the host name. Host is the ESX server or ESXi server. In VMware world, host means the ESX server. Now you got to give it a name. You can give any name you want. And also one more thing, let me go back to my document here. I have an Active Directory domain here, and I told you that a domain name is abc.com. So always use abc.com as your domain, okay? Root of the domain. So coming here, typically, it's a good practice so that in later classes and when we get into clustering and all, it is very easy to understand what server is what by doing this. So I use a naming standard, something like host90.abc.com. Why I use host90 means I'm using the last octet of the IP address. See that 10.10.10.90, that is 90 IP address I'm giving. So I'm calling this host90. So if somebody say host90, then we know that the IP address of that is 10.10.90. The next one, if you are building with an IP address 95, then you call it 10.host, then you call that server host95. So this is the name of the server. Host90 is the name of the server, and the fully qualified name is host90.abc.com. Agreed? This is not going to create a DNS, so this is the thing. There is an option called test these settings. You can actually do that, make sure that everything is fine. So it will do a network analysis. It is doing a ping test to the network. It is doing a ping test to the thing. It says that everything looks good. You can say OK, and you can click next. This is where I was talking about the two things. There is a standard setup and there is an advanced setup. If you are a Linux guy, and if you know how to do partitioning and all, you can definitely use the advanced setup. But I said it is not recommended. You can click this this option and you can go here and create the partitions and all the way you want it. You can actually click the partitions and things like that. Guys, I'm not going to do that now, but anybody is interested, please go ahead and explore it. And if you have questions, please come back and ask. I can answer that. I don't want to complicate here and I don't want to waste time by doing it, so I'm not going to do it. But this is nothing but you have to create the partitions by yourself. So I'm not going to do that. I'm selecting the standard setup, which is the highly recommended thing. VMware is saying, as I told you in my company, you ask or you go to the blogs and see, you can see that many people suggesting use the standard setup. Select the standard setup, so it will create the partitions by default. And this is that RAID partition we have on the server. This is what Sri has created. Sri said he has created a RAID 1 using 272 GB drives. And we know that when you create a RAID 1 using 272 drives, you lose some space for metadata, and this is what the effective volume he is having. It is a raw drive. So you select that drive that you're saying that here is what I wanted to install the ESX binary. It is not yet installed anything. You are already in the process of it. Click next. And here it is saying, hey, the contents of the drive will be erased. I'm going to format it. I'm going to do that. Is that okay? Say okay. And here is where you can select the time zone. So basically move your mouse and there you can see that the saying, I'm going to select, New York thing for now. You can see that I have selected that. You see that when I move it here, you look at this time zone here, you can see that it automatically changes. So I'm coming here and it's very difficult to move the mouse, guys, here. So click that. Once I click that, you can see that in the bottom here, you can see that it is selected America and New York. Okay, click that and select it. It's a pain process, I know. Please do that. So here is the thing. You can select automatically, or you can the time and thing you can basically use automatically, and you can use an NTP server. As I mentioned yesterday, NTP server is the time server. You need your ESX server to get time information. Typically, companies point they will have maybe a router or maybe a domain controller or something will be the time server for every company. If you are not aware of it, talk to your networking guys and ask, hey, what is our NTP server? Network Time Protocol Server. That is what an NTP server means. There is a lot of things you can understand, or if you want to know more about NTP server, there is a lot of things. Again, you have to Google it and find out. But it is required to give a NTP server, or you can configure the time manually. But I have a NTP server, which is my DNS server. So I'm selecting that server. You don't need to synchronize or anything. You can click next. And here is what it comes, and it is asking to give a password. So as you said, you know that the ESX server has a service console. The actual super user in that service, it's a Red Hat Linux, is a customized Red Hat Linux. The user is root. The super user is root, or that there is no administrator in Linux. It's root, right? So the root is the actual user, and you have to give a password. One important thing, whoever is building servers, whether it is ESX or ESXi, please use the password as password. I know it's not a strong password, it's a weak password, but if Arvind gives another password, Byron gives another password, and if I want to log in, it will be a problem. This is a shared environment, everybody wants to log in and try something. So always make sure that your password you give is password. So root's password should be password. So I'm going to give password as password and confirm it. You don't need to create any additional users or anything, and it is not advisable. It's not a good practice in an ESX server. You don't want to create another users and all. This is the only local user you need to create. And that root is already there. You created a password for it. So remember that password. The password is password. And this is what the information. See, we selected the standard option. So the ESX itself is going to create the partitions and all. Let me go through these partitions quickly so that you get an idea about it. So it is saying the license mode is evaluation mode because we didn't give any license. The keyboard is English. This is actually, it is talking about the storage, that VMHBA0 colon C0 colon T0 colon L0. You don't understand that now, but when we learn storage, at that point you will understand how to read these things, where we will learn how to represent what is VMHBA0 colon C0 colon T0 colon L0. What is that? You will understand when we learn the storage. So at this point, don't worry about it. That is the logical volume which we are going to install it. And here is the partitions. So ESXi, you know that it is basically a service console. The service console is typically a Red Hat Linux. So it is the exact Red Hat Linux installation. So you can see that it is actually using some partitions. This is VMK core partition. Is a 110 MB partition. This partition is used for a dump partition. If ESX crashes or something, it writes the crash information. It's like the Microsoft blue screen of death. When it is a blue screen, it writes the dump file to a dump partition, right? Kernel dump or system dump or something like that. So VMK core is actually a dump partition where it can write the information when it crashes. And it is creating a swap partition. This is actually, swap is actually for your virtual memory, creating a small file. It creates a 5 GB root directory for your thing, and 1.1 GB boot partition. This is where the boot loaders are going to be loaded. I will show you all these things, but these are the partition. And it also created a ext partition for their war log. The 69 GB, 70 GB approximately was the size of the drive. ESX needed only this much, 1 GB plus 2 GB plus 5. These are all for future use. 2 GB it is creating for keeping log. That doesn't mean that it needs to. You can create 500 MB also for that. But by default, the installation is giving 2 GB. The root is the home directory of the root user. It is giving 5 GB for that, again, to store the root's files, the my documents and things like that. The remaining partition, the remaining space, it is going to format it with VMFS partition. It is going to format it with the VMFS file system, not partition. The remaining space, it's going to format with VMFS. And that VMFS can be used for what? For creating virtual machines. We will see that. Don't get confused here. Okay, this is the partition. I will explain this little bit detail. So these are the partitions. This is how it will partition the things. It is showing all the things. Now then it is coming down here.
Hey, sorry to interrupt you there.
Go ahead.
Let's say you have Deepak, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Go ahead, Dasri.
Let's say if you have those additional drives in the same computer, right? I mean, if additional drives on the server, I have the set a logical drive, second logical drive. Will the installation ask me to choose VMFS partition other than?
No, it will not. But it will ask you. It will give you an option. It will give you an option which logical volume you want to install it. But it will not give you the second option of, okay, can I do the other two as VMFS? It will not. You have to do that manually. I'll show you how to do that. This server is a good example. So once the installation is complete, we can reboot this server. We can go to the BIOS and create the other two logical volumes, and I will show you how to add them as VMFS volumes. But by default, only one logical volume will be selected. It will use a portion of that logical volume for its boot files like the /boot, /root, /warlog, all those things, and the remaining, whatever is remaining, it will automatically format with VMFS. It is not going to format the other two drives for you. You have to do that manually. That was your question, correct?
Yes.
Okay, it will not do that. Okay. Now coming to the networking properties, we gave all the information. See the VMNIC 0. Very important point. VMNIC. This is a new terminology. I'm talking first time here. In a VMware world, when you have the VMNIC, every network card in an ESX server will be called as VMNIC 0, VMNIC 1, 2, like that. Remember, few things. This is also thumb rules. Processors, the count starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, like that. Hard disks, disk 0, disk 1, disk 2, disk 3, like that. Network cards always starts from 0. Network card, NIC 0, NIC 1, NIC 2. There is nothing like the numbers start from NIC 1, NIC 2. There is always a NIC 0, NIC 1. It's always the count starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, like that. Not from 1, 2, 3. Okay. So there is a processor. If there are 3 processors or 4 processors in a computer, the first processor will be what? It will be processor 0. The second processor will be processor 1. If you have 4 hard disks in a computer, the first hard disk will be what? Disk 0. If I have 4 partitions on a disk, the first partition will be what? Okay, good. So people know it. So partitions are always 1. Okay, partition is the only thing that changes. When it comes to partitions, there is no partition 0. So disks are always 0, partitions always start from 1. That is the only difference, but other than that, everything is 0. So we selected the first network card to configure the IP address, if you remember correctly, and that is why it is showing it as VMNIC 0. And these are the IP information we configured. This is the name, this is the time zone, this is the NTP server. Every information is here. Now you are ready to install your ESX server. All the information required is there. Nothing has been done. This is all in the memory now. Nothing has been applied to your hard disk. It says it's going to format the hard drive and all, but it didn't do anything. It is ready to do it. Now if I click next, it is going to do it. That is all. The ESX server installation is very simple, guys. This is it. So now you can see that it is clearing the partitions and it is going to do the installation. It is actually going to take some time because it has to copy and it has to do the installation. It probably might take around 20 minutes because it is going through a so slow link. You know, I'm doing through a ILO connection. So it is going to take little more longer than normal because my connection I'm doing through a wireless connection here. Okay, so believe me, it's not the normal case. A normal installation of an ESX server, if you have a CD inserted, it can be done in 15 minutes. 15 minutes it can be completed. I can show you that if you want, but believe me, it can be done. But now we are doing it through an ISO file. It's going to take time. So there is nothing much to do here. This is completed. Now we'll wait for the installation to complete. Once the installation is complete, it will come up with a screen saying that installation is complete, do next steps. Then we will start the next step. That is when we're going to learn how to connect to an ESX server and things like that. Okay, so that ends the ESX installation. It's not completed. We have to do some post-installation steps, which I will show you. But let it install now. Now you can see that it is installing the required packages and stuff like that. So let us keep this aside and let us go back and start the installation of an ESXi 5.0 server. Let us see how that happens. Correct? Meantime, before I go, any questions anybody have? We can do this. You know, you guys try to do this yourself. Everybody should try to install an ESX server because it's important, because when you go to a companies, you definitely might come across ESX servers, and it's very important to know. Even though ESX is gone, future there is no ESX server. Sometimes if you're going to a company, there may not be any ESX server, but still you can confidently say that you have worked on ESX server, and you are obviously you are putting 4 years, 5 years, 6 years experience in your resume, and it is definitely an understanding that you know it. So definitely try to do some research on it, try to read about it a little bit about the installation. Any questions? Otherwise, I want to go back to the ESXi server and take. It is very straightforward installation, not at all complicated. I think it's very straightforward installation if you understand. So that's it. Now, once you install it, you got to see other stuff. Okay. So what we are doing now, what this is doing, the installation is doing a couple of things that I will show you after the installation, what it has created. As I said, you know that the installation of an ESX server do two things. Can anybody tell me those two things? What are the two main things it will do? Just to throw out something, if you remember. It is supposed to create few things. Correct. It will install the ESXi hypervisor, and then it also creates a service console. Correct. The VM kernel, that is the hypervisor. It installs the hypervisor, and then it also creates the service console. But you don't see that. All we see is the installation is completed, and that's how it is. Okay, so that's cool. So let this happen. I'm going back to our other server to see how that is going. That was copy. Okay, here is the thing. This is even simpler. ESX5 installation is 10 times simpler than that. So we just loaded that file here. You know that. Anybody has any doubt on how we got into this screen? Anybody, please ask now. You know that I attached the ESXi 5.1 installation CD, and you saw that that yellow mark was going. During this time, it copied all the files, and it is ready to start the installation. And as I said, there is no interesting graphical interface or anything. You can see the texting. It is like 20 years back. That's how it was. That is how it is showing. So you may think that what VMware is like this. All these things they have done to minimize the footprint of the binary. They wanted to keep the binary of ESX as small as possible, so that even a 1 GB thumb drive can be used to do the installation. That was the whole purpose of it. Okay, so it is very simple, and this is the ESXi 5.1, the latest. Guys, with you guys, I'm doing for the first time. It says very clear ESXi 5.1 installs the most systems, but only systems being common. So again, ESXi 5.1 can only be installed on a 64-bit computer. If your server is a DL380 G3 or old, or DL385 G1 or old, you cannot install it because the hardware is not 64-bit compliant. It has to be 64-bit compliant. So here you are ready. I'm going to press enter to continue. Okay. Again, it didn't work, so click on the mouse inside and press enter. As usual, press F11 for the license agreement, press 11 and accept and continue. So I'm pressing the F11 button and it is doing it. ESXi installation is very simple. You don't even have to give IP address also. It's going to pick a DHCP IP. Let's see. Here is the thing. So remember, we configured this server with one RAID 1. Correct? That is that RAID 1 volume. That's only one disk. This is that DL385 G2 server, the one we tried first for ESX 4.1. It is showing that drive, and this is the drive. So it is here. It is showing select a disk to install. There is only one disk, and that is that disk. Again, as I said, I will explain this thing. Not explain. You all will understand what this means when we learn storage. Not now. You will understand clearly, you know what partition it is, what volume, what disk it is by understanding this. We don't understand this now, but when I teach the storage portion, you will understand this. If you want to look some more details of it, you can press F1 and see some details. It will give you some more details about that storage. I'm just pressed F1. It will give you some more details. It's giving the blocks level information and things like that. The storage and things like that. It's showing some details there. I'm pressing escape, enter to OK. So I'm going to press enter to continue with the installation. Okay. ESXi installation is little different, not little, it is definitely different from ESX4 or ESX installation. See, here it is saying upgrade ESXi, install ESXi, preserving. I think this server already has some ESXi was there. I think that's why it is showing that, I believe. We are not going to do that. We're going to do a complete fresh installation. Install ESXi, overwrite its VMFS data store. It is going to do everything. It's going to wipe off everything. That's what I want to do. I'm not going to do any upgrade or anything. I think it is seeing that there is something. It should not be there normally, but I don't know. It looks like it is seeing something there. Before I move here, let me just show you something here. I have a document I wanted to show you. What is VMFS? VMFS is, when we were talking about the architectural block diagram, I was talking, VMFS is the clustered file system. That is, VMFS stands for Virtual Machine File System. That is the file system it uses for creating VMs. We will be learning all that, don't worry about it, but since you asked, it is a file system used for creating VMs. So this is how the ESXi partitions again look like. You know, if anyone wants, I will send you this link. Keep this. This is very useful information. ESXi, I'm going to read this blog. Okay. During the installation of ESXi 5, the system creates at least 5 partitions whose size and layout the user cannot control. ESXi partitions, there is no option for any system administrator to do customization. It is by default, it is going to do that. You cannot have, you don't have, or we don't get any choice. It is all done by itself. And this is how these are the different partitions. The first is actually, it need only 1 GB to do an ESXi installation. You don't need anything more than it. It needs only 1 GB. But here, if you, I will tell you, I'm telling you, you need only 5 GB. 1 GB actually, but it's good practice to use at least 5 GB. I'll tell you why. Let us look at this. As I said, you don't have any control here. Okay? If the installation see a drive that is more than 5 GB, it is going to do it like this. If the installation see only a 1 GB, it will do only the first part. It will not do the last thing, which is called as the scratch partition. I will talk about that later. So Moving on, let us look at the first partition, the boot partition. That is the bootloader. It is, this partition is needed for booting. That's where it is storing all the boot files. The boot bank, which is a 250 MB fat partition, it is a compressed boot image is saved. So when you load the file, it is going to load that compressed file here, and it is going to read the file from this here for the installation. That is why it will be extracted during the boot process and loaded into the system memory. So that partition is used for that. Then there is a 250 MB fat partition. This is actually used if you are doing upgrades or something like that. What it does is, if you are doing an upgrade, ESXi is very smart. ESXi will take the current configuration of your current system and store it here. And if something goes back, it will roll back to that more old state by using that partition. That is what that alt boot bank is used for. This partition is empty after a fresh install. After a fresh installation, it is always empty. But once you perform an update, the current image is copied from the boot bank partition here. So it will take from the boot bank. Boot bank will have the actual image. It will copy a copy of that into here for rollback purpose. That is the whole purpose of it. Dump and crash partition is exactly like this. When ESXi crashes, that is the same thing we saw in the ESX server installation. VMK core, I was mentioning, that is used for the dump partition. That is the same thing. It uses a dump partition to store. That is 110 MB. Then there is a store. It is where actually it will store. You will not understand that now, but just understand that that is where the VMware ESXi server will store some VMware tools and things like that. VMware tools is a set of drivers that will allow you to enhance the performance of your VMs. We will learn what is VMware tools and all later, but understand that VMware tools are small MSI files or small executables that you can install inside a guest operating system to enhance the performance of the VM. Okay, again, remember, VMware tools is a set of drivers that you can install inside a guest operating system, not on a VM or not on a ESX server, inside a guest OS. That means if you have a Windows 2003 VM, you can install VMware tools inside Windows 2003 so that the Windows 2003 can perform well. We will learn what is VMware tools, what are the properties, what are the advantages, all later. But those VMware tools will be stored here. And then it will create a 4 GB scratch partition. A scratch partition is actually a partition where it can store all the log files and all that information. It's not a must. If there is space, ESXi will create a scratch partition and it will store all the files there. If you don't have that, for example, I told you, if you are booting ESXi from a embedded thumb drive, remember we talked about that, right? A 1 GB thumb drive, you can boot ESXi from there, right? Remember yesterday I was mentioning that. In that case, there is no 4 GB to store. There is no hard disk at all on your computer. In that case, it will use the active memory as the scratch partition. The only problem is the memory is not persistent. When you reboot, whatever is there will wiped off. So it's not a good practice, but in large environments people use that. I don't recommend that, storing the log files in the active memory, because if something goes wrong and the server gets reboots, or you will lose all your log information. And you really need a log information when there is a problem. At that point, if you don't have accessibility to that logs, it does not make any sense. So that is what it is. So just to make you guys an understanding, so read about this. This is how it is. So there is no control for an administrator on these partitions. It's all done automatically. Okay. So going back here, let us proceed. Let us finish the installation. What happened here? Okay, this is the thing. So this is our server. It is now going to install ESXi. So I'm going to press OK to do the installation. There is nothing we can do here. We selected the hard drive and said, okay, go and install it. So I'm going to press OK. It is asking me what language. These are the languages it supported at this point. I'm going to select US default. And it is asking to give a password, and the password is password. So I gave the password as password, it matches, and press enter. And here it is giving, this is another thing that I will explain. So this is actually a system encountered the following warning message. Hardware virtualization warning. Hardware virtualization is not a feature of the CPU, or it is not enabled in the BIOS. This is not applicable today in the latest servers. Let me take a step back and take you guys to 4 years or 5 years back. 5 years or 6 years back, I think almost 6 years back, Intel and AMD, the chip manufacturers, they came to an agreement with these virtualization companies. Basically at that time probably VMware was the only company. And they said, okay, they can do something inside the processors to enhance the virtualization capabilities. So they said we can do some kind of virtualization techniques in the processor itself so that your VMs and your hypervisor can perform well. And then onwards, or from that time onwards, most of the processors that were manufactured by Intel and AMD has a feature called hardware virtualization inbuilt on those processors. But you don't need hardware virtualization if you are going to install Windows Server on a server. If you are installing Linux, you don't need hardware virtualization. You need that hardware virtualization feature only if you are installing a hypervisor. So by default, on those days, the hardware virtualization feature was disabled in the BIOS. So you have to go to the BIOS of your server, go to the properties, go to the processor. You can see there was an option, enable hardware virtualization. For Intel, it was called as Intel VT technology, virtualization technology. It was called as Intel VT. So you go to the BIOS and enable it, you will not see this message. If it is an AMD processor, you will see that in the processor properties, you again see an option called enable hardware virtualization. There is an option, I'm not remembering that, but there is an option you can enable that. My server is an old server which actually don't have hardware virtualization capability, meaning my processor is almost 6-year-old processor. This is a G2 server. So VMware is doing ahead a check whether it is there. So it is asking me, hey, Deepu, go and check. I don't see any hardware virtualization. Probably it may be disabled in your hardware. So why don't you go and make sure, or maybe after the installation you may want to enable it, because if you enable it, you may get some better features. That's all. Okay, so there is nothing to worry about it. And this could be an interview question. People may ask you what is hardware virtualization means. How do you enable hardware virtualization? So you should know that you have to go to the BIOS of your computer to enable this feature. This is applicable for Zen, Hyper-V and any hypervisors. They can all take advantage of this feature. In today's world, or at least from last 2 years, all new processors, the Intel Pendrin processors, Nehalem processors, Westmere processors, the new Sandy Bridge processors, I will talk about these processors later, but I'm just giving some names. You may be familiar with the i3, i7, i5 processors. They are all Nehalem processors actually. Those processors already has this hardware virtualization feature enabled. So you don't need to do anything there. It is by default, it is enabled. Okay. So that is this. So nothing to worry about it. Press enter to continue. And it is saying the installer is configured to install ESXi 5.1 on that hard drive. it is going to install. Press F11 to install. I'm going to press F11 here. And it is starting the installation. Guys, in an ESXi installation, this is it. The installation will be done now. You don't have to do anything. It is going to do everything. No partition, no IP address, nothing you need to do. Everything is by default done. If you are looking at it, even a small kid can do an ESXi installation for sure. So it is right now installing. And you know that you have to imagine this way. Most of the servers, you know, from HP and all, they are coming up with the pre-installed hypervisor using the embedded way. But here we are using the installable way. That's it. Arvind, I saw your question. Right now it's going to take the DHCP IP address and it will come back with the screen. At that point we will go into the DCUI. It's called as Direct Console User Interface. ESXi, though it does not have a service console, it has a user interface, and that interface is called as Direct Console User Interface. You will see that user interface in this screen. At that point, you can get into that and you can configure it with your choice of IP address, or you can leave it with DHCP. And you know that we don't want to do DHCP, so we have to definitely configure it. We will do that. Let the installation get over. Okay, so let this installation happen. Let us go and take a look at our ESX server. What is happening on there? It is still not completed. I know it is going to take more time because it is a much slower process. Guys, it's 9:20, 10:25, but I'm going to hold you guys. Definitely tomorrow is Saturday. I have to hold you guys. We have to finish this installation today so that, you know, tomorrow there is no class. You guys can practice and Sunday class we can cover some ESXi properties, like at least we can do some networking. That is what I'm going to do. So definitely I'm going to spend some time, and also you know, I'm going to be out next following 2 weekends, you know, so otherwise it's not going to get over. I don't want to extend this class for 5 weeks and all. I wanted to finish it if possible in you know, 3.5 weeks or 4 weeks. That's what I'm looking at. Okay, so let us take a break. Those who want to watch can watch. There are 2 servers going on here. If you have questions, once I come back, let us take a question. I will also take a small break, and then we'll come back. Did you enable the virtualization in the BIOS already, or when you selected OK, did it enable it? Or no, I didn't do anything, Fanny, because my server was old, so I don't have that option at all. My processors does not have the virtualization feature available, so that's why I didn't do it. If it was available, I should have gone to the BIOS and enabled it. By clicking OK, it's not going to do it automatically. You have to go to the BIOS and enable it. If you are working on a G5 or G6 HP servers, you have to do that. You have to go to the BIOS and enable it. If you are working on a G7 or G8, you don't have to do that because by default it is enabled. Okay? Okay, guys, so let us take a break. I'm going to take a 5 minutes or 10 minutes. You know, we have to wait for this installation to complete. So anybody wants to take a break, go have a dinner or something, you can sit and watch. Probably I may also go and grab some something to eat. I didn't eat anything today. So let us watch, but we are going to continue today. Definitely we have to finish this. Okay. Satya, what is use of hardware virtualization? I told you, right? There was an agreement between the processor manufacturers and the hypervisor companies that they can work together, and it's all a collaboration. You know, see, nobody can work. You know, when VMware is going to release a new feature, they have to work with HP, they have to work with Cisco, they have to work with Intel manufacturers, they have to work with all these vendors. It's a they themselves have a board, or it is called as, I forgot that, there is a name actually. They have an executive committee inside. They decide and discuss all these things. It's not that, don't think that VMware or Microsoft is going to come up. If Microsoft is going to make 10D12, they already talk with their partnering companies and they all come to an agreement, and only you can create something. As well, I always tell my students, let's say, Satya is decided to make, the electric plug points. You go into manufacture electric plug points, but you decided, see, ESXi installation is completed. You see that on the left-hand side, it is completed. It is so fast. It takes hardly 10 minutes. Now, we did it through the ISO file, that's why. Otherwise, it will be over in 5 minutes. Oh yeah, ESXi is much faster because it's very thin. There is no server. Here you are installing a Linux now. That's why it's taking that much time. It is installing the Linux console. It's creating the Linux console. That's why ESX seems slow. Okay, let me go back to your question, Satya. So the hardware virtualization is a feature that will help you to enhance the performance, or the VMs can talk to the processors in a much more better way. What that is, I don't know, but hardware virtualization will give a boost to your VMs so that the VMs can perform more faster than the normal way. That is what it is. So Intel and AMD has provided something to do that inside their chip to help the virtualization technology to operate in a much better way. How it is, I don't know, but the hardware virtualization feature means they have something they have done inside the chip to support the virtualization, so that a virtual machine can interact with the, see, anytime a virtual machine wants to work, it has to interact with the physical processor. Whether you have a hardware virtualization or not, it is going to interact. But if you have that feature, it can work better. That's all. So what it is, I don't know, but that is what it is. So guys, we'll take a break. Let us that screen be there. Let the ESX also get over. Let us take a quick 10 minutes break. It is 10:30 now. I would say let us come back around 10:40. Okay, 10 minutes break, and meantime this will get over, and then we will come and connect to this using the vSphere client, and we have to do certain things. Okay, so I will be back by 10:40. Hey Sujay, I will finish it fast, man. I know you are in the shop and you wanted to go, right? We will finish it fast. Let me quickly show you, and then give me 15 minutes. That's what I'm looking at. I don't know. I can talk more, but we will do this fast, okay? So guys, let us look at this ESX server first. This is the ESX server. The installation is completed. So what you need to do is click next and finish. So it is saying that it is IP address is 10.10.10.90 and you click finish. It is going to reboot the server. One important thing, very important thing, before it reboots, you have to make sure that you disconnected that CD file. If you don't disconnect, what happens here? When it reboots, it is going to boot from this ISO file again. So make sure that you disconnect this particular CD right now. Otherwise, it is not going to load the ESX. It is going to boot from here again. So before it loads the operating system, I'm disconnecting this, okay? Make sure that this is like you took the CD out. After the installation, you took the CD out. If you have the CD there, it is going to go and load in again. So make sure that you do that as the first step. Otherwise, you will see that it is again. So you can watch here carefully. The ESX server installation was completed, and it is now loading. So you can see that the ESX server boot process now, how it happens. It uses a Linux bootloader, and it is going to boot. You can watch that carefully here. Don't look at the other screen. Look at here carefully. And the ESX is going to load now. And you know that we given the password as password, and we know the IP address of the server. It is 10.10.10.90, or the name is host 90, correct? So here is the thing. It is loading in the ESX server installation, and here is the Linux bootloader. It is loading the Linux bootloader, and ESX 4.1 is actually starting the installation. This is not the installation. This is how an ESX server is loading. You can see that it is loading. This is the process. You may think that it is Linux, but it is not Linux. It's actually loading the VMware hypervisor. Actually, it is loading that. And it will, at a point, I will explain that in tomorrow's class in detail, that during this process, there is actually a flip over happens. At one point, it will load the service console there. So we will see that what happens now. So this is the boot process. If you are familiar with Linux, you can see that it is doing all the things. Right now it's Linux. Now you can see that at one point the kernel will take the control here. You just look at this carefully. It is mounting all the required drives. It's loading the file systems. And here you see welcome to VMware ESX. Here is where the actual kernel, the VM kernel, is taking the control, and it is actually loading the service console now. At this point, it is actually the whole control is with the hypervisor now. The hypervisor is loading. Okay. Actually, the ESX is loaded, but unfortunately, I don't know why this is the screen. It always comes with that yellow color. Even I cannot read this properly. If you are in front of a monitor, you can see that things clearly, but this is how it is typically. It is actually showing in this screen. I don't know what it is. It's actually saying that it is loaded. So if you look very closely, I don't know, you guys can see it is saying that actually to press Alt F1 to see it. You can press F12. I know you can press F12. You know you can do that, but it is saying press Alt F1 to see it. So if Alt F1, you will give you the thing. So this is how the screen of a ESX server look like, and this is what you are seeing is actually the service console. This is the Linux service console. So where is the hypervisor? Correct? You cannot see the hypervisor. The hypervisor is under the service console. You cannot see that, but the hypervisor is underneath it. What you are seeing is actually your service console. That is the name host 90. So you're going to log in, it's root, and you enter the password. And you are logged in. So this is exactly, if you are familiar with Linux command, all the Linux commands will work. ls is a command to show the display. You can do all the thing. You can here do an ifconfig. You can see the IP address of the server. You can see that it is configured in a v60. This I will explain tomorrow. But you can see that the IP address is here 10.10.90. You can actually do a ping and see ping 10.10.10.2. The DNS server, it is pinging. So the server is working. Everything is good. If you want to know a df-h command, these are all Linux commands. You can see the partitions which we talked about, the boot, the var log, and all the partitions it created. So if you are a Linux guy, or if you know Linux a little bit, definitely there is an advantage in managing an ESX server. So in old days, many Linux guys take an advantage of it. If you are a Linux guy, you can actually take advantage of managing an ESX server, maybe a little bit better than that. I'm not a Linux guy, as you know, I'm a pure Windows guy, but over the years working with this, I have learned some commands. I know there are certain things you can do. But as I said, guys, there is a lot I can talk about ESX server, but I don't think that should not be included in my class here. But this is what an ESX server is. You can run some commands. I will talk about certain things in coming days, but we will keep this ESX server. You guys can all install ESX server. If you are familiar with the Linux commands, you can try any of the Linux commands. Most of them will work. It is not a pure Red Hat Linux. It is a customized version of an enterprise Linux. That is this service console. So this is what it is. You can create VMs. You can create data stores. You can do many things by running commands. There are a lot of commands available here, but that is advanced topics. I'm not going to talk in that. There are like ESXi commands and things like that. You can create virtual switches. You can create virtual machines. You can power on and power off VMs. Everything by running commands from here if you are a Linux guy. But there is no need to do anything of it, and VMware also not expecting anybody to do that. They wanted you to manage ESX server using the vSphere client. So this is our ESX server. Our server is ready. Now what you need to do is basically you have to go to, let me minimize all these things for now. Now you have your ESX server ready. I'm going to disconnect this also. This is the CD for the other one. We know that the installation is complete, so I'm going to disconnect this also. Close this. Now you need to come to VMware vSphere client. This is a small installable. You have to install on your Windows workstation, your laptop, your desktop, wherever you have to install it. You need this VMware vSphere client to connect to an ESX server. So how do you get this vSphere client? vSphere client is actually available in the CDs, or you can download it free. Or the best option, if you don't have it for the first time, you don't need to do that here because the workstation you are going to connect already has it. But you can just go to 10.10.10.90. There is an Apache web server running on every ESX server. If you do that, it will load a page. You can see that here. This is the home page of an ESX server when you go through a web browser. Here you have an option to download the vSphere client. If you want, you can download the vSphere client and install it. It is just an EXI. You can install it on your machine. I'm not going to do that now because I already have the VMware vSphere client here. So now you have an ESX server. What is the IP address? Can you guys type it, please? Answer to my question, okay? I'm going to connect to an ESX server. the ESX server which we built just now. So the IP address is 10.10.10.90. It is, I don't know, is it registered? Let me just do a ping host 90. So it is not working. That is because it is not in the DNS. If you really want to work with host 90, you should go to the DNS server and create a host entry. I'm not going to, I will do that now. So, you will see how to do that. So I'm going to my DNS server. This is Windows, guys. I'm just showing you. I will go to my DNS server. I will go to my forward lookup zones and I create an entry for host 90. So right click here, create a new host record. This is something you don't need to do it. I'm just telling you. I'm going to create it as host 90 and giving the IP address as 10.10.10.90. So host90.abc.com. I created a DNS entry. Now I created a host entry for host 90. You can see that I have a DNS entry. DNS is the name resolution thing, right? So now if I go here, go to a command prompt, and if I do a ping host90.abc.com, it will ping. It should ping.
The IP itself is not working. Check the IP.
What is that?
Check the IP ping.
No, IP is working. That's how we were able to connect to the browser, right? So if I ping 10.10.10.90, it's pinging actually. So it should work. I think probably I may have some host entry here. Let me see quickly.
Are you pointing to the right DNS server?
Yeah, I only have one DNS server. It should work actually. I don't know why. I think it's not host90.abc.com. What is that? I had this problem. I know what is. I'm not sure. Okay, that's fine. Let us. I think I know the problem. Okay. Okay, here it may work. Let me see. Okay, here it is working. That is not working because my domain control, my DNS server, the default DNS server is actually my Comcast DNS. So when I do that name resolution, it's actually looking at the Comcast DNS server, and that's a whole different story. I don't want to explain that now, but it is working, guys. So we can actually put host 90 here if you really want .abc.com, which is our server name. Username is root. Remember, it is root. You are connecting to an ESX server, and then go to the password and enter password. And click on login. It is going to connect to the new ESX server. This is a security warning. If you want your company is solely highly secured, you can put a SSL certificate and all, but you don't need to do that. So I'm just going to, you can just always say install this certificate and click ignore. Don't cancel or anything, ignore. It will ignore and it is going to connect to the ESX server. So here is the thing, it is connecting. For the first time, it takes some time. It has to load all the plugins and all, but it is going to connect to our ESX server. So this, up to this part, I want you guys to do tomorrow and day after. Practice it, please. We have 4 servers, and you guys have to share that. So whoever is working, please send an email, use it, so people know who is working on what. Okay. Please pay attention to the emails and work accordingly, because I don't want Arvind to step up on a server where Sri is working. So please make sure. So it is loading that thing, and you can see that our ESX server is come up, and this is our ESX server. You can see that the evaluation license is 60 days. So this is how the home page of a ESX server looks like. I will go through all these things later. We'll click on the inventory. There is nothing. There is no VMs. And this is your one and only ESX server we created. This is the host 90.abc.com, the manufacturer, the HP model, in all these things. You can see that the data store, remember the remaining volume, the remaining storage, it is created as the data store, or that is called as the VMFS file system. I will talk about that later. We will go through all these later. But quickly, I wanted to go through that, but I didn't get time. So in ESX servers, there is no virtual machines here. You go to the configuration tab and you click on the storage button. You can see this is the storage. This is that VMFS file system. You can see that the properties, it's VMFS 3.6. There is a block size and all those things, which I will explain when we get into VMFS chapter. But this is the storage. You cannot see the partitions. The Linux partitions. If you want to see that, you have to go through the service console. But here, this is the VMFS partition it created for storing VMs. It is empty now. There is no VM. There is actually one place. There it is, an ESX console. I will talk about this also in next class. But just understand that this is where it is created all the things. The whole concept is changed in VMFS a little bit. In ESXi 5 it is little different, but this is what a data store is. You can actually rename that. I would strongly recommend you to rename this as local underscore storage underscore 90 underscore 01. What that means is, what I'm trying to tell you here is, or what I'm trying to explain here is, this is a local storage of this server. That means it's a local hard disk on this server. The server name is 90 and the 01 is the first thing. If you have additional drives, you can configure the second one as 90 underscore 02, things like that. If you are creating a VM, you can create your new virtual machine. I'm using the typical option for now here. Next, 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 and finish. So you can see that it created that new virtual machine. It is creating, you can see here in the bottom, it is in progress. It is creating that VM, and it created. If you look at this VM and its properties, you go to the summary page of that VM. Now I am at the summary page. You can see that that VM is having 1 CPU, it has 4 GB RAM, it has a 40 GB hard drive. And you can see that VM's files and all the required files are sitting on that storage. And if you browse that storage now, you can see that there is a folder called new virtual machine with the name of the VM. And if you click on that, you can see the files associated with that VM. We will talk about all these things later, but on a quick note, this is how you create a VM. If you power on the VM, you can power it on. You can go to the console here. You can power it on. I mean, I am going a little fast here, guys, but that's fine. We will repeat these things again tomorrow. I can come here and I can power on this VM. It is going to boot. Now, people may want to do some installation of some VMs, some operating system you want to install. I'll show you how to do that. So now you can see that the VM is starting. There is no operating system here, correct? If you want to install something, this is what you need to do. Click on this CD drive. Go here, go to connect to an ISO image on the local disk. go to our C drive software folder, go to which one you want to install, Windows 2008. This is the ISO file for Windows 2008. Select that and reboot the VM. To reboot the VM, you have to press Control Alt Insert, or you can go to this VM here and you can always do the option restart and all is there. Okay, I'll talk all these things later. So I'm going to reboot that VM. I think I did reboot it, but why it didn't connect? Okay, it is not booting for some reason. Okay, it is picking up. Now it is loading the ESX Windows 2008 ISO file. You can see that it is loading the Windows ISO file here. So this way you can install, if you are familiar with it, you guys can try it out. You can try Ubuntu, you can try whatever. So this is how you need to do. You go to here, go to the CD-ROM drive and do that. There are other mechanisms to do installation. I will talk about those options and all when we get into VM's property. Okay, today we don't have time, so I'm not going to go through it. So I can close this. You can create multiple VMs. So now if you go to the host and you look at the data store, you can see that there is only 18 GB free space now. Why? Because I created a 40 GB hard disk for this VM. If you go to the edit settings of this VM, you can see that I created a VM with a hard drive of 40 GB. So it has taken 40 GB from that available storage. That is why it happens. So when you create VMs, always try to put the least amount. Maybe a 15 GB is enough for a Windows server. If you are going for a Linux or a Ubuntu or free, CentOS something, 10 GB is more than enough. Okay. There are other options which we'll talk about. So this is how an ESX server is installed and connected. So guys, this is what you need to do. Let me, I'm going to close this. Let me repeat the steps. You connect to a server using ILO first. Attach the ISO file of ESX4. Reboot the server. Go to the array controller and delete the partitions. Recreate the RAID and then boot from the CD drive. Follow the steps for installing the ESX server, whatever we tried. Don't worry about it. Nothing will happen. Try different options. If you want to explore advanced options or you want to create your own manual partitions, you have time, you can do that. Finish the installation. Be patient. I know ESX installation is not that easy. You have to be very patient. Make sure that your mouse movement is very, very slow, and especially when you connect from there, it will be a painful process, but have that patience and slowly do that. If the mouse is really not working, use the keyboard tab option and use that option to finish the installation. Once the installation is finished, the first thing you need to do is disconnect the attached ISO file. Otherwise, it's going to boot from there again. Then the ESX will boot with the IP address and all you have given. So 90 is given for one. So also guys, before giving an IP address, go to the command prompt and ping that IP and see is that IP address is available or not. If it is replying from someone, maybe Aravind or maybe Gene or somebody else may be building that server. You don't know. So, and use only the IP address from 90 to 100. Do not use 60, 65, 40, 20 or anything, because I have many other VMs running here which you don't know. There are other environments here which I am using. So don't use any other IP address. Please use IP address between 90 to 100. That is 10.10.90 to 10.10.99. That is what you can use. Those IP range is free for the class. Okay. And then finish all this and then start the vSphere client. This is your workstation. You will have vSphere client there. So install the vSphere client and do it. Okay. No, Sujan, I don't mean that 10 servers are available. I have there are only 4 servers available for this kind of work. I have some other servers, this VMs are all running on other ESX servers, which I cannot rebuild. If I rebuild, then I won't have this infrastructure. My whole infrastructure is running on VM, so this is also a VM. So I have 2-3 servers running ESX now, and they are the one that is the backbone for my whole lab. So I cannot rebuild that service, which we will use in clustering properties, but not for building and learning. For learning purpose, we have 4 servers, 16, 17, 18, and 19. 4 servers are there. Please use that 4 servers and install it. So at that time, 4 people can work, and I don't think there is any time 4 people are going to work on it. But again, if there is a 5th person, that guy has to wait for somebody to reply back. So please, if you are doing a work, send an email saying that you are working on this IP address ILO. Remember, ILO IP address is ILO IP address. It is not the server IP address. The ESX server IP address in this case is 10.10.90. That is the ESX server's IP address. 10.10.10.17 is what? That is the ILO address of this server. That is nothing to do with VMware. That is the management IP address. Okay, please make sure. There's a lot of confusion between, in my students, I've seen that people who don't know, they're always confused. 10.10.10.17 is the ILO management address of your hardware. That is nothing to do with VMware. Okay? The VMware address, the host address is 10.10.90. Correct? In this particular case. Alright, so I'm stopping here. I hope you guys can try it out. If you have problems, we will look into it in the next class. And again, if you're really having a problem, give me a call tomorrow. I will be around here, most probably at home. I have some work here, but I will be around. Maybe I could quickly jump in and connect using a GoToMeeting session and try to help you out if I'm at home. Okay. Let's move on to our second ESXi server, guys. I'm going to finish this. ESXi is also installed completely successfully. This is ESXi 5.1, the latest binary, which was released 2 weeks back. I'm going to press enter to reboot it. We have disconnected the ISO file, and let us see. So you know that. Do you know the IP address of this server? Did we give any IP address to this server? No. So it is going to pick up a DHCP IP address, but I don't think we should use that. So I will show you. I will show you how to change that IP address. So ESXi's console is totally different. It does not have a service console. So don't expect any Linux kind of thing here. There is no Linux, nothing. It is a small bootloader only. So it's very, very thin. So we will see what is happening now. Why is it not rebooting? Okay. Let's wait for it. You know, Sujan, I will finish in 5 minutes, man. Okay. Okay, this is that G2 server. So it is coming up. Also, you know, explore that ILO's features and all, guys. You know, those who are not familiar with ILO and all, please get used to it, because when you go to a company, there is definitely situations where you may want to work. I think in this class, probably Sri is the only person I think who has a familiarity with it. Maybe Fanny has some exposure to it, but others I don't see that they are all familiar with it. Please, guys, you know, you guys definitely get used to it, because this is something you will be using for lifelong for the next few years. Please get used to these things. Okay, the ILO, everything is important. RAID configuration, very important. Because these testings and these experiments you can do only for the next 6-7 days or maybe 8 days. After that, I will be taking your access from the ILO. I don't want anybody to build ESX servers, because we will be getting on the clustering and other things. At that point, I cannot allow anybody to rebuild a server. So don't come back and tell after 10 days, Deepu, you know, I wanted to try ESX installation. No, that's not possible. Okay. So please try your maximum these days. Try ESX4, ESXi, whatever. So here is how ESXi 5 is coming. It's a totally different way of booting. It is showing the server's memory, and it is showing the processor thing, and it is loading all the necessary manner. It's actually loading the kernel now. And this screen is called as DCUI. DCUI. It's called as Direct Console User Interface. So go through that Mastering VMware vSphere book from Scott Lowe's first chapter. That chapter explains about the installation, explains about the partitions, explains about the boot loader, the different steps. Now you read it, you will understand it. Okay, here is the thing. Our server is loaded. It got an IP address 10.10.10.105, and it clearly says that is a DHCP IP address. Now what to do? Press F2 now. I'm going to press the F2 button. And I will get this screen. It is no more like the other server. Okay, it is totally different. We are working on an ESXi. Root, and what was the password we gave? Password. So once you do the password and password, you will come to a screen like this, not like this. This is the thing. This is called as a direct console user interface of an ESXi server. Now there are quite some things I need to talk about here. I'm not going to go through that today. We will come through. If anybody interested can go through and explore. There is nothing rocket science here. Come to the configure management network. Enter that button. You can see that the network card. You come to the IP configuration option here. You can see that by default it is using dynamic IP address. So I'm selecting that set static IP address. I press the space bar and selected it. Now I'm coming here and I'm going to change the IP address to 10.10.10.91. Can I use 91? I don't know. We should ping it and see before you enter it. Ping 10.10.10.91. Okay, I can use 91 because it's not pinging, isn't it? Look here now what happens. I'm going to put a continuous ping by putting a -T. It will do a continuous ping. It will not stop after 4 pings. If you do a -T, that is called as a continuous ping. So I have set up the IP address. Let this command window be here. Okay, I wanted to show you that. To make sure that it is continuously. The subnet mask is correct. Our default gateway is correct. Everything is good. Enter OK. It is not a done. You set up this. It is still not pinging. You can see that it is still not pinging because you have not completed the process. If you want to configure this, you have to press an escape button. Escape. And here it will ask you, do you want to restart the management service? In the ESXi, there is a management daemon or a service, and it is asking apply changes and restart management network. Because you changed the IP address, it is asking, do you want to apply the changes and restart the networking? Press yes, so press the Y, and it is restarting. Now if you go here, you can see that, see, it is started pinging. So now we put the new IP address. What is the name of the server? It is localhost. See, that is something I forgot to change. We should change that. So I'm going again to the networking management here. I want to change the name of the server. The name of the server is done at, I think at this level. Here you can come down and change the name of the server to what? What you will give? Host? What will be the name, guys? Should be host91.abc.com. Make sure you always give abc.com. If you don't give abc.com, ESX will append it with local.com, localhost. It will append it with something called .localhost. We don't want that to happen. We wanted it to be a fully qualified domain name. We have a completely working DNS environment here, Active Directory here. So make sure you always give your name as host91.abc.com. Is host91.abc.com is going to work? We don't know. We got to check in the DNS, which you don't have access for. Don't worry about it, but give the name. Again, press enter. And if you want to save that changes, you have to again do a restart of the service. So I'm going to do that change. So now you can see that the host name is changed to host91. The IP address is 10.10.91, and we are still able to ping. Our server is in good condition. Now what? So this is it. There is no Linux console or anything. This is what ESXi is. It's very, very simple and very thin. There are some shell and all is there. I will talk about that later. Okay, there is a shell to do some advanced troubleshooting and all. We will get into that later when we learn the other sections. Now what we need to do, how do I connect to the ESX server? I want to create a VM. You cannot create a VM from here. Anybody? How do I connect to this ESX server and work now? Okay, not vCenter. Go to the vSphere client, correct? Now, I'm going to see a problem here now, which I will show you now. I'm going to the vSphere client. This is the first time I'm installing vSphere 5. So I start the vSphere client. This vSphere client is actually version 4. So it is going to give me a problem now. So I'm going to go to 10.10.10.91 root and password. It is going to give me an option to download a newer version of vSphere client. You can see that. See, it's giving me that option because, let me tell you that, I'm using a vSphere 4.1 client here, and now I'm trying to connect to a ESX 5.1. So that 5.1 is saying, hey, you know what? You cannot talk to me using a 4.1 client. You need a 5.1 client. So I'm going to install that latest version of the vSphere client. You will not be doing that because I'm installing it now. And you cannot install also because you don't have administrator rights. So it is installing that new vSphere client. It will be quick. Give it a minute, guys. It is downloading that. Let us finish that. Yes, you can go to the web console and download also. Right, Satya? You can go to the web console and you can download the version also. Do you have a backward compatibility for ESX 4.1? That's correct. If you have the latest version, it is not actually backward compatibility, Arvind. That's a good question. It's actually, these are all different installable. So if you go to add remove programs, you can see a vSphere client version for 4.0, 4.1. This is all like different. It's same thing like, you know, you can have a window Word 2003, 2007 and 2010. You know, these are all 3 different installations. Just like that, every version of vSphere client is a separate package. It will be installed. So I have 4.1 and maybe some other version. We can look here. If you go to my control panel and add remove programs, it's 11:30, but sorry guys, you know, we have to do this, otherwise it is a waste for you. See here, I have different versions of vSphere client, 4.0, 4.1, and I also have 5.0. But the ESX server we built was what version? 5.1. And that's why it is downloading the 5.1 for it. So it's not backward compatible, but yeah, it will be one interface, but in the back end it is actually using different engines. Okay? You understand that, right? Hey, Raiden and Byron, are you guys understanding? I don't see any questions or anything from you guys. Are you getting what I'm trying to do here?
Yeah.
Okay. Ask questions. Okay, see, this is a class. This is, I mean, not a big class. I thought there were going to be 11 people, but there is only 9 guys. Please ask. You don't have to worry about what Aravind thinks or what Sri thinks, or you're not going to have any relation with anybody else. You are paying for me. You are learning. So if you have a question, please ask. You don't have to worry about it. Okay. It may be a dumb question. It may be a good question. Don't worry. Yeah, just ask the question. Okay. Don't keep silent. If you do that, you are going to be the loser. So please ask. If you have any question, you ask. Okay. I don't think so, Aravind. Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, it's actually doing the installation now. So here, now let us just, you can see that it's extracting the files that it downloaded, and it is going to install it. It will be quick. Sujan, I know you are in a wrong place, but it will be over fast. So tonight, tomorrow, Fanny, you have time today. Maybe when you go home, please try to do some installation. I don't think anybody else will be using this environment tonight, so that you can give the environment for others. Gene and all, please try to use it tomorrow daytime. Okay. And tomorrow night also there is no class, but use the whole day tomorrow. Try to build some ESX server. See, you can try to create some VMs, things like that. Just experiment it, and also read and Google it if you have problems. Otherwise, call me. And be patient when you're working, okay? Because it's a Java and things like that. ILO is not that easy to work with. Just keep that in mind. Once you have everything is installed, it will be easy. So now we have the installation of the vSphere client. This is the new version. This is how it looks like, the new vSphere client installation. It is actually installing the VMware vSphere client 5.1 on this computer, and this is what you will be using, so you don't have to worry about it. Hey, Aravind, I got your message. I didn't check my mail, man, so I will let you know tomorrow, okay? About the payments, guys. So I know a few people send the payment. I don't know about others. I hope you might have sent. Sujan, your thing is being taken care by RAM, so you don't need to worry about the others. If you're not send the payment, please send it, okay? Okay, so we have the vSphere client is installed. Okay, it's finishing. Okay, next, agree, next, and finish. It's installed. It's a simple same step installation.
Let's say in a real environment where ESX servers are installed in the data center, and the vSphere will be sitting on your laptop or desktop, right? Can you hear me?
Okay, so the installation is completed. Now we can go. See, again, you will see only one shortcut here, guys. It is vSphere client. It will decide what engine to use depending on what server you're connected. So we are going to, okay, it is not completed yet, okay. It was not completed. Okay, sorry, wait for it.
I have a question.
Oh, okay, who's asking? I can hear that question. Very, 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 can you loud, please?
Yeah, Arvind here. So for some reason it is very, very low.
Arvind, I cannot hear you, man.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I have to be very close. Tell me.
Okay. Basically, like vSphere, the client that is going to be sitting on your desktop or laptop, connected to the ESX server, which is sitting.
Can you? I cannot hear. I cannot hear. Can guys? Anybody can hear you? Anybody can hear him? Okay. See, most of them say they can. Yeah, now it's better.
Can you hear me?
Arvind, go ahead. Now you can hear you. I think I
Sorry, I think that was me.
Okay, now it's better. Who's that?
That's someone else. I was saying I could slightly hear.
Okay. All right. Arvind, do you want to try again? Please go ahead. I can hear you, but go ahead. Let's listen. I think typing is difficult.
Okay. Basically, the just to glance it, the vSphere client is going to sit on the local.
No, I cannot hear you, man. Sorry. You check your speaker sound and microphone sound. I think there is something on your problem there. See, you can adjust that.
I typed it.
Arvind, sorry, man. I cannot hear you. Okay. For some reason, okay. Can we connect through vClient on my laptop? Connect to ESX server? No, Satya. You cannot. You have to connect to my lab first, and then only you can connect to any of the servers in my lab. You will not be able to get access to it. If I had a VPN or anything like that, then I could have provided you that feature, but at this point, that's not possible, and I don't want it to do that also. Okay, it's taking a little more time. I don't know why, but it should be a very quick installation. Okay, I think it's done. All right, good. So vSphere 5 installation is completed. So I'm going to start this thing. I'm going to connect to my new vSphere 5.1, sorry, ESXi 5.1 server root and password. We are connecting to the ESXi server. Let us see what is the difference. Again, install the certificate and ignore. All right. So here is our server. Again, 60 days evaluation. You go to the home, you see the exact same thing. We have the 91, and let me also connect to our old server 90. You can connect to both servers. You start 2 vSphere clients. That's it. You can connect to both servers. So this is the ESXi here, and this is the ESX4. Let us see what's the difference, and let's give a quick comparison, and then we will stop today. What I'm trying to show you here is, or what I'm trying to tell you here is, see, it's also look exactly same, right? I don't think there is any difference here. If you look here, everything is same. Only difference is that, you know, one is ESX and one is ESXi. So I'm going to click on the inventory here. You can see that this is an ESX 4 server. You can see that it is ESX 4.1. Then there is a build number 348. We will learn that build number and all later. This is our ESXi 5.1, build number 793. Both are same servers. Everything looks pretty much same, correct? I don't think anything is different here. If you go to the configuration here, you see all these things. If you go to the configuration here, you see the same things here. If you go to the storage here, you will see the same thing here. It already created local storage 01. Okay. Here it is showing as the local storage 90. So I'm going to rename this to 91_01. So we know it is 91 storage. This is not for now. I think I want you guys to practice this so that when we have clusters and all, this is very important. The naming of data stores and all is very important when we get into clusters, and when we have multiple ESX servers, it all has some importance. Look at the networking here. It created a network switch. We didn't create this switch. This switch was created as part of the installation. That's on an ESXi 5. On an ESX server, you see that it also created a switch. And this was created vSwitch 0, vSwitch 0. But you can see a significant difference in this. I just wanted to show you. Here it is saying service console, and you can see that IP address here. This is the IP address of your server that is configured in the service console. How and all I will talk later. Here there is no service console. Instead, it's called as a VM kernel port. It's called as a management network, which is inside the kernel. That VMK0 means inside a kernel, and vSwitch 0 means inside the service console. These two switches were created as part of the build. We can create new switches. We will look into the properties, all those things later. Don't play around with it. There is only one network card. These are the VMNIC zeros. In both cases, the first NIC card. We can add more NIC cards to the switch. All those things we will learn later. But for now, you can wipe off. So we have used 2 servers, 17 and 19, with these things. Anybody wants to build these servers, go and reformat it and rebuild it. Okay? Give the same IP address. So that's it, guys. I think we will stop here now. I think, if I keep on talking, I will be continuing to talk, So I think we will stop here, guys. If you don't have any questions, guys, let us stop. But please try to install and practice. Okay, now you know how to install an ESX server and an ESXi server. It's a very simple process. Get used to it. Get familiarized with it. Okay. Thanks, guys, and good night. If you don't have any questions, anybody has any questions? Otherwise, I will log off.